Fogs have been highly underrated in Commander historically, at least until relatively recently, where they seem to be undergoing some sort of mini renaissance. I do know, however, that some folks still aren't convinced, especially with the prevalence of decks that don't bother with combat. So if you're one of those folks, would you reconsider it if it could end games as well? You Look Upon the Tarrasque is a 5-mana green instant which has 2 modes: Run and Hide, which is a one-sided fog, and Gather Your Courage, which gives a creature +5/+5 and indestructible, as well as a lure effect, meaning that all possible creatures that can block it do until end of turn. First, let's talk about the fog, which in all honesty is the less involved part of the card for deck building, because, well, every deck appreciates a fog. Having the option of a big old emergency button to press in times of dire emergency is useful in general, though this one does something sneaky to make it even better. It's one-sided. It prevents all combat damage dealt to you and your creatures this turn, which means that you can devastate an opponent's board with a well-timed Look Upon and some tactical blocks. It can even protect your attacking creatures in a pinch. But speaking of attacking, the lure effect is the true spice of this card. Lure effects are fantastic because they essentially read that all of your creatures bar 1 are unblockable, which is an incredibly strong effect. The usual issue with lures is that you essentially need to choose a creature to lose, feeding it into the meat grinder that is your opponent's board. But Look Upon fixes this as well by giving Mr. Meat Grinder a buff and indestructible, meaning it'll survive the melee and probably take some blockers down in the process. Even choosing a basic 1/1 token is pretty damn good, as it becomes an indestructible 6/6. And that's not even considering the kind of card that wants to be Mr. Meat Grinder, namely the usual culprits for lure effects: Marholt Elsdragon, Ansrag, and Shelob. Marholt gets massive, Shelob steals all the blockers, and Ansrag basically just wins the game. Even beyond them, however, pretty much any green combat deck appreciates this card a lot, especially with the fog for if they leave themselves open after a swing. Among the many deck styles that adore this card, you've got the full swing every turn kind of decks like Ognis or Gahiji, forced combat decks like Thantis the Warweaver, and in particular decks that want the whole board to deal combat damage: Gnawbone, Toski, Finn, Ikrishadiki, etc. I'm also very fond of it in Kadira for protecting your bunny horde, or turning one fluffy friend into the killer rabbit of Kaya Banog as the rest of your board swings in. This card is so flexible and frankly so powerful that it's definitely worth another look, along with so many of its other Baldur's Gate brethren.